BJ Counsel. I view the world through the lens of having been followed by a white clerk as a child while shopping in a five and dime. I'm a retired police executive and own UN50, which gives guidance on surviving interactions with police.
I'm Harmony Chavis, and I view the world through the lens of one of the most misunderstood and diverse generations in our nation's history. I'm a social worker and a believer of radical kindness and love as modalities of healing.
My name is Andrew Counsel. I view the world through the lens of a generational camera phone. I wake up as a black male and go to bed as a black male. I am surviving this never-ending court case we commonly call life in the best way I know how.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to UN50. I'm glad you could join us. For those of you that's joined us for the first time, UN50 is an organization that goes around teaching people, primarily Black and brown folks, how to safely interact with law enforcement. But we also talk about other things with mental health, education, mental health, those types of things. Because if you really think about it, these issues surrounding law enforcement is just not law enforcement, it's a lot bigger. And we are recording out of Durham, North Carolina, out of the Bull City. And this evening, who we have with us is Ms. Latoya McNair, who is the director or the shelter manager for Durham Crisis Response Center, which is our local nonprofit that deals with sexual assault, domestic violence, human trafficking, and other things that she'll go ahead and expound on that in a little bit. First, I want to introduce, for those of you that don't know, is my co-host. I usually have two. One of them is my nephew, who is not with us tonight. He is traveling to Richmond with a buddy of his, and I told him it was okay. He could plan to join us by phone, but I figured he'd probably hit a dead spot and didn't want to have to worry about the connection. So just letting him enjoy himself. So my other co-host is Harmony Chavis, who's been with me since the inception of UN50. Hadn't chatted with her in a while. So how you been, Harm?
I know. I feel like it's been like 50 years since we've caught up. Things are good. I'm finally able to unpack in the new house, which is nice. It's not as terrible as I thought it was going to be being a homeowner, so that's good. But also just glad that the process is over and now I can kind of start settling in. And before we get started, Latoya, actually, you probably didn't know this. BJ, I don't know if you know this about me, but domestic violence and sex trafficking is initially why I got interested in social work. So that was one of my first internships. It was in Burlington at the shelter there. And I remember my first day, I called my dad crying. I was like, Dad, I can't do this. I was like, how am I supposed to sit with these women every day, knowing what they've been through, and just go home? And for a second, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And I went back the next day, and seeing those women show up for themselves every single day, I figured that I surely could show up twice a week for an internship. So thank you so much for all of the work that you do. Even in an internship capacity, I can't imagine managing that all of the time. So I personally am so thankful for what you do, and I'm excited to speak with you tonight.
Thank you.
And thank you for the rest of your team that you brought. That was a nice surprise, and hopefully, we'll be able to get to hear from some of them, have some input. So Latoya and I have known each other for a while. I used to be on the board of directors for DCRC years ago, and she's definitely been a light, and her passion and love for what she does just kind of stood out, and our relationship, I think hopefully I consider her a friend. And obviously this is the month of domestic violence, and wanted to, at least UN50, being a law enforcement officer, wanted to have someone to have this discussion. So Latoya, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is La-toya McNair, and I'm actually the shelter manager at Durham Crisis Response Center, which is a 24-hour shelter. We house people like with sexual assault, domestic violence, human trafficking, LGBTQ. We do men and we do women. We help assist them with domestic violence protective order through our FJC program, which is Michelle is the director of FJC. We work with Spanish clients, which Evelyn is on the Spanish team, and we have a crisis line, 24-hour crisis line, and Jamie is actually the manager of crisis line. We have case management at the shelter, which is Courtney is our lead case management now. We have Pennies for Change, which is our actually thrift store that helps us with proceeds with Durham Crisis Response Center. And we also have our clients to go shop there, and they can actually shop for free. We have rape prevention education. We have, I did mention LGBTQ. We work with LGBTQ. And
counseling services.
Yeah, we do. Oh, sorry. We do counseling service as well. So we kind of like a wraparound service. We do a lot of things at DCRC.
So, Latoya, you guys don't just service Durham County, correct?
That's correct. We actually service people all over across the United States. I have people that come as far as California. So we service people everywhere. The challenge is if they're in California now and they call Durham County to actually get shelter services, we can't hold beds. That's part of our grant funding. So we can't hold beds. So it's kind of like hard for us to service people that's coming from out of state now.
Okay. All right. So I guess one of the things I'd like to talk to you about is just, why are you in this profession?
Well, actually, it is personal for me. I grew up in a household with, and I think a lot of my coworkers may not know this, but I don't care about sharing. I grew up being molested. My mom, everybody that she actually dated was abusive to her. I was taken from CPS a couple of times as a child. So I just vowed to, when I get older, I want to protect the kids from childhood molestation. I actually stumbled over DCRC by accident. And when I found it, I didn't even know it existed.
Right.
So I was just so excited. I think I started off doing weekends, 2 days. And it was, when I started working with them, it was just, I just couldn't leave. I just felt like this is my passion. I have to stay there and I have to protect the women. I just don't want to abandon them.
Yeah.
They just been through so much, and just working inside of it, just seeing it is just a whole different world than actually hearing about it.
Mm-hmm.
But actually working with people on a day-to-day basis is just really different.
Well, staying with that thread or that thing, what is it that you think community members and individuals who don't understand what domestic violence, because it's always why don't you just leave, and then you have the part of we forget that men are also abused in relationships as well. And so just kind of talk about what some of the myths that people don't know, or either there's this assumption, why don't you just go ahead and get up and out of there, all that kind of stuff. So kind of talk about that to educate people. You just can't say that, because Harmony and I have talked about this before. I mean, it's a statistic, and you and I talked the other day, confirmed that it takes an individual statistically 7 times before he or she can leave the relationship. So just kind of, just help out some of our listeners as to, kind of take some of these myths or on lack of knowledge as to, why, the victims sometimes stay with their abusers.
Okay, well, for the most part, some of it is intimidation. They get intimidated by the abuser. They say, "Oh, I'm going to kill you if you leave." Things of that nature, and financial. Sometimes it can be financial reasons, and somebody can be in an abusive relationship to where their partner wouldn't allow them to work, so they have to solely depend on that partner or that individual. Right. So financially, they may not. They may can't leave. This may be all that they know. They've been with this person ever since they've been a teen. So this is all who they know, and this person has took total control over their lives. So and then the other myth is men don't get abused. That's inaccurate. Actually, this year has been my highest number housing men in shelters. We have had a lot of men in shelters, and I was looking at the DV homicides of this year, and across of North Carolina, we had a total of 45 as of September the 22nd. But out of those 45, there was actually 9 men that has been murdered by women.
Wow.
Or same-sex partners.
Wow.
Wow.
So it's a lot of different myths out there when it comes to, And then you have people saying, oh, she's so silly. I mean, she crazy. I wouldn't stay in that situation. She should leave and stuff of that nature. But it's not that easy. When you're in that situation, you see out of a different lens. So things are so much different than what you think until you're in that situation. You never know what you may go through. I want to add, like, do any of my coworkers have anything to add or anything?
Y'all just okay.
Feel free.
Yeah, you can speak up, man. You might as well join. I think, because I used to, when I was on the board, I actually was trained to do the helpline, the crisis line. And I was so glad that I did that because it opened up a different perspective. I mean, it's one thing to sit on the board, but it's also another thing to participate and really listen to women. And one of the persons that I listened to one evening, she didn't have anywhere to go because her family was just like, and this is just, I mean, I don't know. She was like, can you go to your family? So what is this thing? Also, can we talk about the fact that individuals stay with their abusers and then the family begins to turn away from the family person who's being abused? I mean, can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, for number one, like some families aren't educated on that. So they really don't understand like why this person stay in this situation. They think it's easy just like everybody else. So what happens is they become angry at the individual because they like, oh wow, why do you stay like with this man or with this woman and they doing A, B, and C to you instead of being supportive? They don't understand. I think a lot of it start with education. Once we get every like people educated, then they understand. Or if they have been through the process, then they understand. But we get that all the time, like talking to people. And the first question we ask, do you have friends or family that you can like reside with? And for the most part, we have a lot of people that say, no, I don't have family in the area, or my family don't support me because this is something that keeps happening and I keep going back. And my parents said that if I go back again, they don't want to have anything else to do with me.
Wow.
So it comes with educating, like education, period.
Yeah. I have a question for you. And I guess the interesting thing about most of the things that we talk about on this podcast is that it's generational. You were talking about how your mom's boyfriends abused her and also molested you. What do you think was a pivotal moment, or what helped you kind of say, I don't want to continue in these cycles anymore? Because I mean, molestation for children is one of the most devastating, soul-crushing things that can happen to an individual. So being able to see the strong woman that you are now, like managing a shelter and obviously being able to navigate quite difficult emotions and situations, what inspired you, or what kind of helped you to decide to do something different than your mom had done?
Well, I sat there, okay, with my mom growing up, and I seen like different men abuse her. I actually like would fight them. And I knew when I got older what I wanted to do. So honestly, actually, when I began working in this field, that was my healing process. I have been through therapy, like through the past, like to overcome some of my, childhood traumas. But working in this field actually strengthened me, like to like want to do it. But I guess it also took away from my kids a little bit, because when my kids was growing up, I actually never allowed them to stay with anyone that had a man in the house, or because I was terrified of what may happen to them because of the things that happened to me.
Right.
So I think like being at this job, just like, just helped me. It helped me. It's helping me, like, for my background, to be able to help clients as well. So.
Yeah. I also did not know. Can I have one more question for?
No. Go right ahead.
So you guys are a shelter for both men and women, and you also house folks that are under the LGBTQ umbrella. I had no idea that there were services for men, first of all. And I definitely didn't know that there were support services for people that may have been displaced after coming out to their family. I assumed that that's what that service is.
Well, it's actually like LGBTQ. Then we have LGBT education, but we house LGBTQ that has been through domestic violence. or
Gotcha.
anything like that. And a lot of it don't have to be like recently. They could have been a month ago, but they still have effects from it.
Right.
But
Okay.
yes, we house men. A lot of people don't know that we house men.
Yeah.
But the thing about men is it's embarrassing to them. Like it's a lot of men out here that be abused, but they embarrassed to come forward because they feel like they're a man. They don't supposed to get abused, but that's a myth. You do. And then I had a call one day on the crisis line. This guy, this was before we started taking men, and it was so many years ago. And the man called in, and at this time we wasn't taking men. And he was like, so you guys don't have a place for me to go. So what happens if she's beating on me, if I hit her back, I'm gonna end up in jail, but you guys don't have no safe haven for me. So that's why I'm glad that we are able to house men now. And it's easier because we are actually not in our shelter at this time. We are like we are in another location. We actually housing at a hotel, which is our office out there and everything. But
okay, cool.
The clients get their individual rooms. So it's easier to house men now.
So, I mean, cool. I mean, because I know Harmony and I have talked about domestic violence. I mean, we both, on the board, and she and I have both kind of talked about it on different levels and stuff like that. So I knew she would. I was like, I knew she's coming to this one, So, what is just a little bit, if you don't mind, Latoya, what's your relationship like with your mother now?
Well, you know what? Actually, me and my mom had a very, very rocky relationship. And I didn't tell my mom until actually it was 2006 that I had been molested multiple times.
Oh, wow.
And I remember like having this vision. And this was like when I was 4 or 5 years old, but I couldn't remember like why am I having this vision. So I talked to my aunt first and I let her know like what happened. No, she told me that one of my molesters, she was like, oh, he's in town. I was like, what? I was like, he did this to me. And she was like, what? She was like, well, I took you to the hospital when you was 5. And like this stuff has happened to you. And I was like, oh, that's the vision. But I know like now it took me and my mom a while. When I told her in 2006, she acted exactly how I thought she was gonna act. I told my grandma first, and I was like, well, I'm scared to tell my grandma because I know how protective she is over me. She'll go and try to find the guys. So when I told my mom,
grandma,
yeah, she was.
Yeah.
When I told my mom, she was more like, well, ain't nobody tell me. Why didn't she tell me? Did it really happen? So we already had a rocky relationship because I experienced so much. My mom was on like drugs for a lot of years. She was in rehab, and when she was in rehab, we was left alone. And when we was left alone, it continued to happen. We're not alone. We had my aunt, but my aunt was on drugs herself. So when my mama left, and things was happening to me, it actually like put a bigger wedge in between us. And then not to mention, like I was taken from CPS 2 times, and I have a younger sister, but nothing ever happened to her. So me and my mom actually, 2014, she got sick. And when she got sick, I went up there. She stayed towards DC, and I went up there and I used all my vacation time, almost 2 months, like helping her. And I remember she was on life support. And I was whispering in her ear, and I kept talking to her and rub her, and she would frown when I rub her. And I was like, well, why is she frowning and she on life support? How she know I'm touching her? So I whisper in her ear. I was like, Ma, I said, when you wake up, it's new beginnings for us. And I was the one that she woke up to voice. And when she woke up, the first thing she said was Neat. That's my nickname, Neat. New beginnings. And I was like, how in the world did she hear me? Yeah. So ever since then we've been like kind of close. I go see my mom every other month now. We got a better relationship than we had in the past.
Wow.
But it's not as close as I want to be like her and my sister. But we get along like much better.
Wow. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate you sharing that. I
have a question, B. Real quick, sorry.
No, you know.
Because if I don't get in here, she gonna talk over me for the rest of the time. So how has COVID affected the intake numbers? Have you seen, I would assume, an increase and the amount of people that are seeking services, or what has that been like for your organization?
Well, we did have an increase. And like I stated before, we even had an increase in men.
Mm-hmm.
And being at our location that we are able to house like more people than we would at the shelter.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing is with COVID, we're actually having clients to stay longer than normal because it's actually hard to get them like housing. It's either slow or it's just a housing issue with us. So
yeah.
I think I have a clients have been there 3 months or more now. So it's they're actually staying longer than they normally would stay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So I know you guys offer counseling service. Do I have to be obviously I would be a victim, but can I just say, look, I'm a victim of either the past or currently, and I need to talk to somebody. Can I just do that without? Can I come in and just get counseling, or do I have to come in as part of, some other steps? I know you have this counseling service. Can I just come in and just take full advantage of that counseling service? Is that something that you could offer to me if I was a victim of abuse?
We can. Yes, we can. It's not just limited to like shelter clients.
Okay.
It's limited to anybody that experience any of the victimizations. So.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So tell me about, I think you and I talked a little bit about this, Latoya, about you used the term SNAP syndrome.
Yeah, SNAP syndrome.
Yeah, so kind of go into a little bit about that, because I guess what I want to go is because one of the things that we're going to be talking about on my next the show that's going to be aired after you guys is called Alternative to Violence Project.
Mm-hmm.
Which helps individuals on how to communicate their feelings without resorting to violence. So I think it fits with people learning how to be angry without putting their hands on each other or being verbally abusive. So kind of talk to me a little bit about that. And also when, it is a lot of the stuff that you see, or is that just a myth that people just don't know how to communicate and express their feelings without being violent?
Well, I think some people do know how to express their feelings without being violent, but some people don't. I guess some people, I use the term SNAP syndrome, but I guess like people like go through a lot, and when they can't take it like anymore, instead of like using their words, they use their hands instead. They just snap. And it may be an incident that this person never even like raised a hand at you, but you keep pushing the buttons, you keep having arguments, and it's something deep down in that person that they just can't take it no more. So they just snap on that person. So that's why I use the word like SNAP syndrome, because you can pretty much talk things out, but sometimes things get like heated to the point. The only thing you feel like doing is touching versus like being verbal.
So is SNAP syndrome your word, or is that something I can Google? Did you just create SNAP syndrome? Am I going to find that on Google?
No, you know where I heard SNAP syndrome at? The first 48.
The first 48.
Yes.
What is it? I don't know what that is. Harmon, you know what that is?
That's the police homicide. They investigate homicides.
Okay,
so it's like live, so they investigate different homicides.
Oh, okay.
And I heard them use the word. That's SNAP syndrome. Oh wow.
Yeah. No. See, I don't watch police stuff. So yeah. Okay. That's fine. So, is there any advice from you guys, and your crews here and your members of DCRC as an individual like me, if I have an argument with my wife and. Mm-hmm. And I'm closing in on the SNAP syndrome. What are some of the things that I could, that I've never raised my hand, I've never put my hands on her, but I'm getting close. What is it that I should do in order to keep me from doing it? What do I just need to leave the building? Tell me what I should do, what people should do when they feel like, if I'm getting ready to put my hands on my partner or my wife or my blah, blah, blah. Tell me what I need to do. And I've never done that before. But I'm feeling like I'm getting ready to do that.
breathe, relax, and just go to another room. And if you feel like you can't be in the house for the moment, just go outside, just like take a drive or something. That's what I would suggest. Do any of my coworkers have anything to say? Jamie?
Come on, y'all. Y'all can speak up. Come on. You know you want to.
Look, she laughing, DJ. It was eating her up.
I know, right? Come on, Jamie. She calling you out. She calling you out.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
No, Latoya, you right on the money. I like to use the word power of the pause. And for me, that
I like
means,
that.
Yeah, I always use the word the power of the pause. Take, like Latoya said, take a breath. Take a pause. If you have to even leave the room or step outside, go for a walk, go for a drive, whatever it is that you have to do to leave the situation in that moment, that can also help de-escalate.
Wow. Yeah, I think I just got the title for this podcast show. Yeah, I think that's gonna be it right there. I like that. The power of the pause. I really appreciate that. That makes sense to me. I mean, that's exactly it. So, and I guess as you were saying, that individuals who may not like come through the normal way that, they call because they've been victim, but and I don't use the power of pause, or I begin to, can I also come to you guys?
Yes.
Because I'm getting ready to, so can I come to you? Can people come to you because they're getting ready to cross that line and don't want to?
Mm-hmm. That would be helpful. Just like, you could call us, call the crisis line, and they'll give you some intervention. Jamie Snow. Call the crisis line and they'll give you some intervention. If you guys feel like, if you feel like you need counseling, like we can offer counseling as well. But I would if a person is getting to that point and just need somebody to talk to, I would encourage them to call the crisis line.
Tell you what, go ahead and give me that number. I mean, we're going to post it with the show, but while we're talking, somebody might be listening and understands what we're talking about. So go ahead and toss that number out right now. The number is 919-403-6562. Cool. Thank you very much for that. So the other thing that I know when I was on the board, because I'm an animal lover, and so we, at one point I was thinking about how do I help? How do you guys help individuals? Because I know that one way is that they abuse the victims' animals. I mean, so what do you do? What do you do with the victims' pets? I mean, you don't want to. I mean, my thing is you're leaving the pet there with the abuser, and if the person isn't there, they're going to do something to the animal. How are you guys, helping? I mean, I know, on a scale, we need to take care of the human first, but then there's that, because that's traumatic too, obviously,
right.
Because that's a family member.
Mm-hmm.
So just for people who are victims and then they don't want to leave their pets there with the abuser, are you guys able to help with that?
Yes, actually, they don't have to leave their pets with the abuser. We actually take animals, and it doesn't. It's not limited to like what animals. Of course, we're not going to take something huge, but we have to. We can house animals. We have crates, and if they have crates, they can bring crates as well. We're in a shelter. We're in an animal shelter. We're in a animal friendly place now as well. So,
wow.
Even in a shelter, we actually take animals as well. But our location, we made sure that we was able to take pets.
Nice. Carmen, you kind of perked up when you heard that.
That's so cool. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Like, who would have? I just didn't even think that would be possible. So that's really neat. I also have a lot of just like dog stuff that unfortunately doesn't fit my dog because I underestimate how large she is. So I have stuff to donate, and I was going to ask if you guys accepted donations for animals. Okay, yes. Cool. Good to know.
Yeah, cool. So you've been there for how long now? 15?
A little over 15 years.
Wow, that's really cool. So what are some of the things that you guys feel like you would want the community to know? Do you guys feel like you're embedded enough in the community for people to know that you're there? Is there more that needs to be done to be accessible, to be easily accessible in communities that may not either know about you or can't get to you. I mean, are you easy enough about, I guess the bottom line is, do you feel like you're easy, accessible enough for folks to get to you?
Well, I think so. If they like Google a domestic violence shelter, but I think we can really bring some more awareness to the community. Obviously, it's hard now, like during COVID. We used to have like stands when they used to have like little festivals and stuff in Durham. I remember the little I forgot the little festival, but I used to sit out there every year and hand out flyers, fingernail files with Durham Crisis Response Center and our crisis line number, something that can be hidden. So years ago, we did a lot of outreach. We do have outreach. We do have somebody that does outreach as well too. But I think we need to like be out there a little more, because a lot of people don't know that there's a shelter. A lot of people don't know that there's a shelter for men and animals and women and children, LGBTQ, human trafficking. A lot of people don't know that they are those services that we have and that we offer. So I think that,
sorry, I was just going to say, how can community members, how can we help you guys? Like, as far as volunteer work, are there things that you need that maybe we could donate? Like, how do we as regular people help your cause?
Well, I could say at our safe stay shelter that we have, we need stuff like toiletries, paper towel, toilet tissue, like stuff of that nature. We can use volunteers. We definitely could use volunteers on our crisis line, hospital responder, even though we're not actually going to the hospital right now, but we actually are in need of some volunteers.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I was on the board, I did the helpline, and that was just eye-opening to do that. And yeah, just people volunteering is just something that can just help, and that's education, because now your volunteers are going out and educating folks. I mean, so that has a double effect on folks and to help out. And Harmony I asked her. She's also sent me some, because I know it's always about donating money, to nonprofits and stuff. But I asked Toya to send me some information of other things like you just asked about. So we'll be posting that as well when we post a show, to ask folks about the things that are not money, but toiletries and other stuff like that they might need. And obviously what you just said about helping out with the animals and stuff like that. So, yeah. So, I mean, I know this is domestic violence month, but I kind of want to touch on some of the other stuff, the sexual assault and human trafficking. Kind of the human trafficking just kind of jumps out at me as to, I don't even know how to ask. What are you helping with? I mean, that's an unfortunate thing that you guys have to do that. So what does that look like? What does that look like?
Human trafficking, we basically help with shelter. A lot of human traffickers, they really need counseling. So we're doing counseling services as well with them. Honestly, I think this year, I haven't had a whole lot of like human trafficking inside the shelter. I think I may have maybe 5. And most of our human traffickers victims are like really young. So we have a whole lot of young human traffickers, or they like out of the area, out of the country.
Wow.
So we have had some. I'm sorry to keep putting you on the spot, Jamie, but have you had like any calls or any crisis calls as far as human trafficking?
I know this is a very serious topic, and I understand what we're doing here today, but you are not sorry to keep calling me out.
I love it. Love it.
But for BJ, I'll do it. So we have had some activity for our human trafficking clients. A lot of times, and a lot of people don't know this, they are not aware of this, but Durham, we have major highways that run through Durham that get from destination to destination. So there's a lot of transit going through Durham. So for us, even if it's just something as small as housing them so they can get back safely to their families or to get back to their original destination of where they come from. That's
Right.
something that's easy. We can do that. We have picked up some numbers. Numbers have increased a little bit for those victims and survivors, but a lot of times our number one goal is to get them back to a support system, family, friends, and then where they originate from, we try to set them up with services in their area.
Okay. Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
How old would you say your youngest human trafficking victim is that's at the shelter currently?
Well, we can't, we don't have anybody currently, but we can't house anybody under 17, not unless
17?
yeah.
Okay.
So they'll be 18 and up.
Oh, wow. And you said that
Wow.
you even sometimes are assisting with like international victims of human trafficking.
Yeah, we had a victim and they came, I don't know if it was like some part of Mexico, but it was like some years ago. I think that was, you know what, that might have been my first human trafficker victim. And she, far as her mental stability, she had a counselor. See, I think her mom was her mom was the one
Who like sold her?
Right.
Oh my God.
So her mom, and I think she was like 13 or 14, but she ended up coming to the United States. She had kids by the incident of being trafficked. But she couldn't like be around her kids, but her mental state was something different. Like it was really, really different. She was Hispanic. She was Hispanic. She didn't speak English at this time. Angela, you remember Angela BJ? Angela was her case manager.
Yeah.
But she was doing a lot of stuff to kind of like scare us to the point we had to hide knives and stuff because she would be calm. She would be calm, but then she would like flare up. Yeah. And we hid the knives and stuff for her. And then Angela actually found her a family to like rent a room with. But she ended up having to leave that particular house because her mental state, she was like gone mentally. Even though she was getting counseling, it was like she was at a different level.
Wow.
It was scary.
Yeah. Jamie, don't be trying to slide off. I see you trying to hit that thing, trying to get off of here. So seriously though, you know, I asked Latoya, so what would you want to say to the community, Jamie, as far as, so we're gonna have the link on our page when we do the podcast and all that kind of stuff for the organization. We're going to do all that. So since you have been chiming in, what is something you'd like to leave with our listeners as far as the work that you guys, all of you, and thank you to all of you for the work that you do. So what would you like to leave with us?
I just want to add that even though we may not be able to service youth or adolescents under the age of 18, we do have resources that we can reach them, that we can put them in contact with to make referrals for those people. I don't want anybody to be deterred from receiving help. Right. Our number one goal, I would like to think, is educating and awareness.
Yes.
Because like Latoya said, especially, I know BJ, for your podcast specifically, for people of color, Black, brown, and indifferent, whatever the color is, we have to remain educated. Yeah. We have to be aware of our surroundings. So that's something that I would like to leave. If anybody has any questions or they want to, they're bystanders and they just want information, they can always call our crisis line. They can always search the information online. I put in the chat our website. You can also find our needs, the agency needs, the donation list is on that website as well.
Okay, awesome.
Don't click off yet. I'm gonna put it's THEDCRC.org. THEDCRC.org, just in case folks may not go to my website and they're just going to listen to us. That is their website. Jamie, you're talking about education. I know, Latoya, you guys were talked about that. What about schools? That's I'm going back to this alternative to violence project that I'm really, I love it because it's teaching people how to deal with their emotions. In some schools, they've actually shown a reduction in bullying. How soon, if you can, we need to be in the schools because this happening in schools. I mean, we know, because if you at home and mom and dad are beating on each other, well, we kind of know that you probably beating on your little girlfriend and you might be in the 8th grade and because you think that's what it is supposed to be. So how do we get this information to the youth, and how do we figure out a way as a community to say, look, this is something that we need to expose children, but you know what I'm saying? What is the message to be able to figure out how do we let folks know early on? I mean, it's a different world. It's a different world now. You know what I'm saying? So how are we going to teach them young instead of so they won't grow up to be an abuser or a victim, whatever.
I can't tell you this, BJ. Our rape prevention educator, he is amazing. I have had the opportunity to sit in on him, and he goes into the schools. Right now he's not physically. Right now he's not able to physically be there.
Right.
But he does remote classes with middle school and high school students.
Oh wow! Yes.
And he teaches about healthy relationship, dating violence, red flags, things to look for when these kids are starting to date, or they're getting curious, or they see things at home and want to reenact things at school. So prevention. We have an awesome person that goes into the schools that do that, and he starts in middle schools. Absolutely.
Wow, that's awesome. So that's we may have to get that person on next year. Okay. We may have to get him on just to talk about that because it's all about, I'm getting ready to go off on my little thing now. We teach people early, with this violence and all this kind of stuff. You ain't got to dial 911 and have a popo come up in your house if you know how to deal with stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't need to know, your business because you just don't know how to communicate with your partner. We need to figure out how to teach people how to communicate and not resort to violence. Then we need to teach people how to do the power of pause.
Pause, right. BJ, I do want to add too, in the shelter we do children case management, which Courtney do as well. So we do have case management for the children.
So what is that?
Like pretty much like educating a little bit. It depends on their age. Courtney has little activities that she like do with the kids, because when we have victims like come in, we forget that the kids are victims too. They witness certain things and they mimic certain things and they think it's okay.
Right.
So we try to educate them when they, arrive in the shelter. We try to do education around it, so that we can prevent them from doing violence of any sort. So it doesn't necessarily have to be domestic violence.
Right.
They can be violence in the home, and they actually can mimic that, fighting in the street, the shooting and stuff like that. Yeah. I'm pretty sure if we do background checks on people that's like killing people or doing certain things, that they have experienced like domestic violence of some type of abuse in the home. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of statistics that would support that. And just real quick, because I want to make sure too that people understand you guys walk with the victim through the cases. Is this correct? Or is that do you help them as far as court when they have to go through the process? Are you with them, or are you just instead of supporting? Are you physically with them, or you just help support them as they navigate the system once the person is arrested for abuse?
Well, I don't want to put this person on the spot, but we have the director of our Family Justice Center, which is Michelle, and she probably can answer that question for you. She's the director.
Okay, well, you might as well. You don't put Jamie on the spot, so let's go ahead and get Michelle on out there too.
Just gonna spread it around, aren't we?
Yeah, let's just spread the love.
I did not know what I was getting into.
Yeah. So look, yeah. Before we go, I kind of want to make sure that people understand that your victims and survivors have you guys there to help them navigate the court system. So can you just kind of talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. We have staff that are actually in the courthouse, and we work with clients if they want to come in and get order of protection themselves, what they call a 50B, 50C. We are there to help them with that process. We work very closely with the district attorney's office, and we will walk clients and support clients through the whole process from start to finish. In terms of accompaniment to court or to the district attorney's office for a meeting, that's going to be on a case-by-case basis right now. And that just has to do with COVID.
Right. Okay.
And, limiting the number of people allowed in a courtroom,
right.
Or the DA's office, making sure that only people are there that have business in the office. So it's just, they're trying to minimize exposure, but we're definitely available. We are also available over the phone. You can always call the helpline to get information, but yeah, we're more than happy to work with people.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I mean, dude kind of knew some of that, but I want somebody else to say it out loud. So yeah, I appreciate I appreciate it. I mean, it's a service. I want folks to know you guys exist, and thank you again for everything that all of you do. So Latoya, we're getting ready to wrap this up. Do you have anything that you want to close out and leave for us? Thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Thanks for bringing your crew.
Oh, I'm thankful for them.
Yeah. Thanks. I mean, this was a surprise, but I'm so glad you guys came. You've actually made the conversation a lot better. Not that Toya wouldn't have done well by herself, but you guys certainly made this conversation much better, and I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to hopefully people will enjoy the conversation. Again, Toya, do you have anything you want to say as we exit out of here?
I just want to make sure that everybody know that we exist and to help us educate the community. It's helpful. Like if it's contagious, just act like it's contagious. Like if we're helping the community, just because we're in the organization, you don't have to be in the organization to educate the community. I also want to add, like, to let people know that we're here, and we definitely are like needing volunteers for our crisis line, and what have you. We really need. It's very important that we have like volunteers.
Okay.
So I want to, and I also want to say, because you were saying something about people think you need to donate like money. It's not necessarily about money. It can be like their time.
Okay. Thank you.
And we are like in need of like help with our crisis line. We don't have a whole lot of like help as we had in the past. So that is like crucial, like to take a lot of like excess work out of the crisis line. It doesn't matter. We have Spanish speaking crisis line as well. Let me give you the Spanish crisis line as well.
Go ahead.
That number is 919-519-3735.
Okay.
That's our Spanish crisis line. So it's not limited to anybody. It can be no matter what language you speak. We actually accept them. We use ways like translation to actually communicate with the client. So
yeah, cool, good. Thank you for that. And you'll probably need to send it on email, but we'll make sure Abby, my social guru, will make sure all that information is out there. Thanks again to your crew. And before we sign off, Harmony, you got anything?
I was just reminded of this quote that I read in a Bell Hooks book, All About Love. I don't know if she said it or if it was a quote, but it stood out to me, and it was something I journaled back, I think, in January of this year. And the quote is short, but love and abuse cannot coexist. Love is not chaos. Love is not abuse. Love is not pain. That's not what love is. And so I hope that if anybody is listening to this that is currently going through that, that you're loved, and that you have access to different resources that can be helpful. So, yeah.
Thank you, Harmony. I appreciate that. So, Latoya McNair, we really appreciate you joining us on UN50 podcast, and also your crew that joined us as well. Thank you very much. Again, always UN50, recording out of the Bull City. And as always, stay safe, stay well, peace.